All right. So now let's go ahead and move it on to Hellraiser.
Oh no.
Yes, it's time.
So soon.
Yes, Hellraiser.
So soon, my little dude.
Yeah, all right. And Lady Phatblood, I'm glad she's here because she's going to be spitting some real facts.
Oh, okay.
Because all of you badasses that are new.
Am I up?
Not yet. All of you badasses that are new here, thanks again for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button. We appreciate you guys being here. Just a quick reminder, those of you that are new to the channel, quick reminder, Hellraiser is Lady Phatblood shit. This is her world. This is her domain.
My domain.
She knows her shit.
This is my dominion.
So you're about to be educated on a few things as well as me.
Okay.
I'm going to be educated on a few things as well.
Let's calm it down a bit. Okay. Calm it down.
I'm talking about for those of you that are watching that don't know.
Calm it down. Okay.
They're going to learn, and I'm going to learn a few things.
Let's calm it down because I've not gotten into the graphic novels or anything like that. I'm not that hardcore into the lore.
This is your domain now. There you go.
Tune it down.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
all right. Here we go.
Just a little bit.
All right, okay. Hellraiser.
So, did you want to do the synopsis?
All right, let's do the plot synopsis here. It's directed by David Bruckner. We've enjoyed 2 of his films that we have seen so far, The Ritual and The Night House. So we had faith that he would do a solid adaptation of Hellraiser. Plot synopsis, really quick. So here we go. A take on Clive Barker's 1987 horror classic where a young woman struggling with addiction comes into possession of an ancient puzzle box, unaware that its purpose is to summon the motherfucking Cenobites. There we go. And Pinhead is played by, the priest is played by Jamie Clayton, and Riley is played by Odessa Azion. And we'll get to some more of that. But that's the basic plot synopsis right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I had said earlier.
Here we go.
Like I had said earlier.
Yeah.
This was one that I was not looking forward to so much as I was understandably curious because, as I've stated in the past, the first Hellraiser film is like a comfort movie to me. Like that movie is a hug to me.
You're hearing this, right?
That's
some hardcore shit.
I will put on that movie if I want to go to sleep. I'll put on that
Hellraiser
movie if I want to cross stitch or paint or just I'll have it on in the background when I'm doing stuff. Like I adore the film. I love listening to the commentary, even though I've heard it a billion times. I just love the movie. Okay. I love the atmosphere. I love the score. I just love the movie.
Yeah, it's a classic.
I love the movie. It took me a really long time to read the short story. But I did eventually buy it. And
research.
I reread it just before the Hulu film came out, just to kind of refresh because not everybody. Let me tone down my exaggeration here. Let me tone myself down. Some people was telling me, oh, but it's going to be closer to the source material. I'm like thinking to myself, because I had seen the trailer at this point, and I'm thinking to myself, Sweet Pea, beloved, honey pie, cupcake. Have you read the novella? And have you seen the first movie? They're almost identical.
They are.
They're almost identical. There are very, very few differences. They're small, but they're important differences. But it's almost the same goddamn story. Almost the same story.
The original.
There's only a few differences. I am biased when it comes to the movie, but I feel like the changes they made for the movie, thematically and from a storytelling perspective, made them better. Okay. I feel like the movie that they told the story that they told in the first movie made for a better story than in here, even though there are more descriptive things that happen in here that for a book read, because again, it's a very short story. It's called a novella, but it's a very short story. But from a descriptive point of view, you get more meat in here. You even get a conversation that takes place between Frank and the 4 Cenobites that he meets before they tear him apart.
Right.
Much more descriptive of what happens. Because if you remember the very first movie, he opens the box, chains come and then he gets ripped apart, and then you see the Cenobites really quick and they're playing with his bits, and then boom, nothing. And it's just the empty,
Right.
the empty room. And then we get our movie.
Playing with bits.
Playing with his bits.
Okay.
Not those bits. His body, the whole entire body bits. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. So having wrapped my head around the fact that people are telling me, oh, it's going to be closer to the source material. I'm like, I see the trailer. My brain is like, no, it's not, because it's already been done.
Yeah.
And I saw the trailer and the trailer was nothing. It's like, why remake the first movie?
Right.
No
right.
point. Okay?
There's no point. Yeah.
And then I see the trailer and I'm like, no, they're doing their own thing. They're
Right.
doing their own thing. So stop telling me that they're anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So not looking forward to it, but obviously I'm curious, because you got to remember, Hellraiser 1 and 2, first two films are the most connected.
Right.
Then you get the third one that's loosely connected and it goes off the rails.
But it's fun.
Goes off the absolutely rails. Okay. And then the fourth one, there was a good movie in there somewhere.
Right.
But studio interference completely fucked it up. Director left, took his name off. He got kicked out of the editing room, all that good shit. And then you get Bloodline with Alan Smithy credit. And then after that, it was nothing but scripts that had nothing to do with Hellraiser converted into Hellraiser stories. And then you had obviously the last two, which were cash grabs it wasn't a cash grab so much as we need to retain the rights. The studio wanted to retain the rights, and so they made Hellraiser Revelations in like a week or 2 weeks.
Yeah, and it
something
shows
like that.
Yeah, it shows.
Which was awful.
Right.
And then they had Judgment, which nobody liked.
Right.
Now Judgment tried to do its own thing in certain things here and there. Nobody liked it. And so now you end up with what we have now.
Right.
A series that's coming soon, apparently, to HBO. And you have this Hulu reboot / reimagining.
Quick question. In the book, was Frank defiant or crap in his pants?
Was he defiant?
Or was he crap in his pants?
Oh, when it came to
the book.
When he first met the Cenobites?
I guess that's what Reese is asking there.
If that's what you mean? When he first met the Cenobites?
Is that what you mean, Reese?
Well, okay, when he realized, because he's playing with a box, and he doesn't realize that things are it's back there. He doesn't realize that things are going on at first.
Yeah.
And then when he realizes that the Cenobites are coming up, like when he realizes that the Cenobites are in the room, and he realizes, oh my God, I had no idea what I was summoning, because he knew that there were things coming, but he had no idea that he had no idea what to imagine, because it's Cenobites, flayed skin, hooks, chains, pins, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So when he finally sees them, he's like, oh my God, what have I done? But it's too late now. I've summoned them.
Okay.
So when he finally sees them and he starts having conversations with them, and then they start putting the sensations on him before they rip him apart. They gave him like all these sensations, basically. Basically, the first sensations that they gave him, hypersensitive sound, hypersensitive feeling, hypersensitive taste, hypersensitive sight. It's too much for him, and it overwhelms him, and then nothing, and then everything, like they just rip him apart. Okay, that's what it's in.
Okay.
So it's
Then they play with his bits. Okay. What's up, Junko? Thanks for popping in. He said he loves your Godzilla trailer reaction. So good to see you, Junko. All right. All right. Here we go.
So, having said all of that,
okay, we've cleared the air.
Going into this,
yes. You accepted. You were like, okay.
I was like, okay, they're doing
their own thing. Let's see what happens.
And then when you see the trailer, you kind of saw that the box was noticeably different. And I'm like, okay, so we're doing our own thing. Now in the movies, we had two different configurations. You had the Lament configuration and you had the Leviathan configuration, established in the second movie. And you never really saw, as far as I can remember, you never saw the Leviathan configuration after that. Oh, you had the Elysium configuration, but that was Hellraiser Bloodline, and it wasn't a configuration so much as a giant thing in space that contained everything, but that's a whole other story. Whole other story.
Right.
Okay. So when you see all these other boxes in the trailer, you don't see everything, but you see like these other configurations, like, okay, they are doing their own thing. Right. Just completely their own thing. So I'm like, okay, now you have to accept this movie on its own terms. Right. So going into the movie, you open up with this rich dude. Boy. Yes. Right. Summoning, like luring this kid into his lair. Right. And it's obvious that he has lured him and he has tricked him into opening the box. Right. Right. Now, in the established rules of this film,
Okay. Of this movie. Okay.
it's not your personal desire to open the box that summons the Cenobites. It is the opening of the box pricks you with a blade, and the blood opens the box and calls the Cenobites, and then they come and get you. And that's the one thing that loses me in this film.
Okay.
Is that Voight, the main antagonist of the movie, if you will, he hatches this plan where at the beginning of the movie, it's established that he opens the box. It changes into the Leviathan configuration, and you see stuff in it. You know, he has this spiel where, you know, I'm a humble servant and all that.
I want an audience.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the next time you see him, he has this mechanism in his chest. And you come to find out that he chose, because in this lore, they established that once you're granted an audience with God after the 6th configuration is opened, the Leviathan configuration, you are granted a gift of your choosing between the 6 configurations. Either knowledge, love, sensation, power, blah, 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 blah. Okay. He chose sensation. Well, there's always a caveat in the gifts that the Cenobites grant you, and they chose the sensation that they chose, that he chose, bit him in the ass.
Right.
And that's this giant mechanism, and it fucks with them. And so the whole movie is basically his design. Okay. So we're introduced to the character of Riley, her brother.
Yes.
His boyfriend.
We're introduced to
her boyfriend.
Discount Chris Evans and Russian Doll.
Right. And then there's a pointless Cenobite fodder character that's a roommate. So being introduced to all of these characters, the only reason that they are roped into all of this is because Voight had a plan. And his plan was to get a second audience with God, Leviathan, and say, I want this taken out of me. I changed my mind. I don't like the sensation. It's been 6 years. This sucks. I changed my mind. This is awful.
Yeah.
So my problem with this established lore and this established rules is that what happens if one person that isn't involved in a grand master plan just stumbles over the box, and they open the box and they get pricked, and the Cenobites come, and it's like, what's in it for the Cenobites of just one soul? You know, because before it was desire calls the Cenobites. The desire to open the box brings forth the Cenobites, and the Cenobites, we have such sights to show you. We have such pleasure and pain to show you.
We have such sights to show you.
So it's like, what would have been the plan without Voight? Like the Cenobites, what do they get out of just one soul? Unless, because at one point, Riley, the character, she goes to open the box, and the Cenobites are like, this was meant for you. But it misses her. It doesn't open her up because she's on drugs at one point. And so it doesn't cut her open. And it ends up going for other people that end up just happening to open the box. And the way the box works in this sometimes is really stupid. She gets into a little physical tussle with one lady, and it accidentally triggers the mechanism and cuts the lady open. And that brings the Cenobites forward. At one point, they figure that the blood of another Cenobite is acceptable, which I'm like, that's bullshit. Like, there are little things in this
I don't know
movie.
about that, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah, there are little things in this movie. It's kind of like, I don't know about this. Like, sometimes I feel like people miss the original point of the Cenobites. You know, but this is the established, this is like the established world and the established rules that this movie created for itself, whether I agree with it or not. So I'm kind of like trying to roll with it. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I don't really like this so much, and I don't really like that so much. Like the box just being so simple to open in a fucking physical altercation. Stupid. Yeah, because the puzzle box in the original movies, it's been a long time since I've seen them. They were very difficult to open, right? It's a puzzle box. It's supposed to be tricky. It's supposed to be like, you kind of have to play with it, and there are parts and pieces that you have to, it's tricky. It's supposed to be tricky to get into. Not just, tussle, it's open.
But you spotted, while we were watching this, you spotted an Easter egg for the fans here.
I think it was meant to be an Easter egg. The box in its lament configuration shape is stored in a safe in a warehouse with 55 on it, which the address in the original story or the original movie / story, the address was 55 Ludovico Street.
Okay, so that
I think
might be a Easter egg.
It seems
for
kind of
fans,
odd that it was a 55.
Yeah,
like, it seems kind of like a random coincidence. So probably not.
Right.
Probably not a coincidence. But what I did, there were a couple things that I did like.
Okay. There's some good stuff in there.
There was a description in when Frank first opens the box in the novella.
Okay.
Where right at the very beginning, when he's playing with the box and it says he did not hear the great bell begin to ring.
Right.
And one of the things that happens in this movie is every time a Cenobite starts to go out, like every time the Cenobites are summoned,
right,
and it goes after a victim, you hear a bell.
That was fucking cool.
And
that was cool.
Yeah. And
yeah, that's cool.
And even it's not just part of the soundtrack. It's not like it's part of the soundtrack. You actually, like, one of the characters even acknowledges, I hear bells. And I like that.
That was cool.
That was a nice touch.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, that's
you hear the Taco Bell and you are fucked. You are fucked. What did you think of the Cenobite designs?
You know what? Again, I'm so biased of the first movie and of 80s practical effects. Watching it a second time, I've watched it twice now. Watching it a second time, they flip-flop for me.
Right.
I don't think the Hell Priest was terrible. I've heard some people complain, why does it look like she has pins in her head as opposed to nails? And I can kind of chalk that up to you because in the book, they are described as being jeweled pins.
Okay.
So the nails were kind of more of a creative decision, I think, to show up more on camera in the original.
In the original, yeah.
And even throughout the series, you can see they kind of get bigger as the makeup, gets older.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as the makeup gets more and more, younger, I guess, per movie. The first movie, they're not as prominent. It's like by the third movie, they look like full on nails in the third movie.
Right.
Like nails.
I prefer the nails over it's a lot more intimidating look, but I mean, they're following the book, so that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. I can accept it.
I didn't really like the second kind of main prominently featured Cenobite that had kind of like, and if you know what I'm talking about, the Angelique Cenobite from Hellraiser Bloodline, where there was the peeled skin, and she had like the one also from and you just showed her. Yeah, that one. I wasn't crazy about that one. And part of it is if you actually freeze frame any of them.
Yeah.
And you actually like stop and look at any of them, they're very beautiful suits, but they look like suits. They look like people in very beautiful, well manicured suits. And then you go back and you look at the designs and the suits and the makeup and the prosthetics from the 80s, and they're just dripping with blood and like KY jelly, literally KY jelly, and just bits. Like you've got Frank walking around. Like some people have said that this movie looks too clean. I absolutely agree.
It does.
And why was that? And we were talking with your friend.
My buddy Joe Valley mentioned that though.
But it was another friend of yours.
Which one?
Kyle.
Oh yeah, Kyle Wong.
We were talking. He was like, it looks too clean, and I was like, yeah. And think about why that is. The first movie, you start off in this grungy, filthy house with cockroaches, rats, maggot-infested food, rotten food everywhere. A guy died in this room in the top of this house. And the blood of his brother brings him back by him reforming into this human husk, and his ex, one-time lay has to kill people to bring him back. But when he does start to get brought back, he's nothing but flayed flesh and skin and dripping with ooze and blood and
juicy.
Yeah, it's literal. It's a filthy, grimy movie. You feel kind of
you take a shower. Yeah. This you're good. You're good. You don't have to take a shower.
The dirtiest thing you really feel in this movie is just being with the character of Riley, who's a recovered addict.
Yes.
And she's the only one who looks kind of dirty and grimy.
Yeah, but she's supposed to be. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's only because by design she's kind of dirty and grimy.
But like you said here, like you said, when you freeze frame some of the Cenobites, they don't look as well. But then when you get them in the right lighting and stuff, it does work. And I think this was our favorite Cenobite, right?
Yes. Yeah,
This guy.
he was the only one that really, really stood out to me.
Especially when you see him walking around.
When you walk around, when you look at him from the side, he's actually just this. He's like this mounted face.
Yeah, his head is just like this.
It's just like this. There's no actual skull. There's no brain. There's nothing. He's just like this mounted face stretched out on a rack.
He's thin head.
I thought he was the most fascinating character design, because other than that, you've got like this bootleg chatterer that didn't really look any better than the original.
There's one that looked like a bat, like the big huge eyes. It looked weird.
Was he the one that the fingers, the hands?
Yeah,
the hands like did this weird stretchy, like they just like disconnected from each other and just like
the good news about the little nitpicks that we're saying is it still works. It still looks good.
Yeah,
it's not like the Cenobites look like crap.
Yeah, so the story is kind of. The story at first was reminding me of the Evil Dead remake, where you've got this former recovering drug addict. She has like all these hang-ups, and she's got like this brother who's trying to help her out or whatever, but she's problematic. She's got this problematic boyfriend who's basically like, hey, I know about this box in this warehouse, because if you need some money, hey, I can get you some. Well, he doesn't say it's a box at first. He says, oh, hey, there might be some money. There's this millionaire stash. I don't know what's in there, but people never go there anymore, so we can go steal it. And at first she's like, no, but we need money. So they go do it. And it turns out to just be the box.
Right.
And her and her brother get in a fight. She leaves. She accidentally opens the box in a drug stupor. But the blade that comes out, again, that's supposed to get the blood and some of the Cenobites, misses her. Her brother comes out and looks for her. He plays with he touches the box and the blade is already sticking out, so the blade gets him. He ends up getting claimed by the Cenobites, and then we have our adventure where
because she was in her own way, she accidentally chose someone else for them, because they ask her, if not you, give us another, and then it cuts to them going to the brother, choosing the brother. I thought, right?
Well, later on.
Oh, later. Okay.
Later on, because later on she's getting ready to throw the box.
Because that's why the chains come out of her.
Well, yeah,
right.
Yeah, that does happen.
Okay.
But later on, they flat out
come out of Riley.
They flat out because she's getting ready to throw the box away, because at this point, they've gone to Voight's mansion, they've escaped. But then she's getting ready to throw the box over the bridge because the Asian roommate has died at that point. Right. And she's getting ready to throw the box, and the hell priest Pinhead is like, cuts her with the box and is like, now you have to choose.
Gotcha.
Like fully, now you really, really have to choose, because now it's your blood is in our hands. Okay. So again, the rules are kind of loose and fast. And the thing with the Cenobites that also were kind of loopy in this is that when in the book, when the Cenobites were after you, you were the only one that could see it. Right. But in this one, by the time the end of the movie hits, everybody can see the Cenobites. Yeah. And they're like physically completely manifested on Earth in this one. It's not like a half and half realm between heaven and hell or anything like that. Like even Voight's built this like metal prison around his house where the Cenobites can't get through. It's very lopsided and kind of half-assed the way they wrote their own rules in their own story. And you just kind of have to like, okay, this is your story. Right. Let's see where it goes. This is your gig. Mm-hmm. It's your own thing. So I'm trying to go with it. Again, some of it I was okay with, and some of it I was just like, this is fucking stupid. Right. But Riley, in this point in the story, Riley's, the brother gets taken. Right. And now she's like on this mission to figure out what happened to her brother. Right. That's majority of the film is her. Right. And she figures out. Because by the time they get to Voight's mansion, she figures out by the time they get to Voight's mansion, they realize that he knew about all of the lore. He figured out all the lore, and they realized that there are the 6 configurations, and there were 6 different stages. And once you get the audience with God, resurrection is one of the stages, and
Yeah.
one of the wishes that you can be granted. And she's like, hey, do you see where I'm going with this? If we
Right.
can get to the Leviathan stage, we can be granted an audience with God, and I can get my brother back.
Right.
And it was like, okay, well, all right. Again, this is your lore. This is a whole different ballpark. You know, it's a whole different ball game. And so by the time the movie ends, we're basically left with Riley, the boyfriend, who he was in on it with Voight the whole time.
Right. Discount Chris Evans.
Right. The brother's boyfriend, and Riley and Voight. And Voight, it gets kind of loopy at the end. Like it gets loopy at the end because once they discover that you can sacrifice a Cenobite with the box.
Yeah, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
This was kind of like.
Yeah. Once they realize you can sacrifice a Cenobite with a box, they come up with this plan to trap another Cenobite in the mansion so that they can sacrifice it to get to the Leviathan configuration, because they're on the second to the last configuration. So once they do that, they all get separated. Voight shows up and he botches the whole thing. He wounds the boyfriend, the brother's boyfriend with the box. And Riley's boyfriend is like, you didn't have to do that. We could have used the Cenobite. And Voight's like, it doesn't matter. It's done. And so again, it gets really loopy at the end. And then Riley ends up sacrificing the boyfriend with the Leviathan configuration. So they both ended up making a blood sacrifice. So in the end, Voight makes his plea with Leviathan, and Riley ends up getting her audience with the Cenobites. So Voight gets his wish granted of getting the mechanism taken out of his chest, and he gets, for a minute, he gets all of his innards restored. But the caveat being, you don't get a gift from the Cenobites and Leviathan without there being a big but in all of it. Okay. And he ends up being turned into like they're like, no, you don't really want to be restored. We were wrong about you, Voight. We were wrong about what you really want. You didn't want sensation. You don't want any of it. You really wanted power, and we're going to give you power. So what it looks like by the end of everything, it looks like he gets turned into a Cenobite.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Which was a very interesting artistic scene.
It was pretty cool, actually.
It was very nice to look at.
Yeah.
But if you notice, he's also in Leviathan when this happens, and he's also attached to this thing, and he stays put on this thing. He stays like affixed to this thing.
Yeah.
So who knows what his fate actually is? He's part Cenobite, part what is he? Like, what is he? We don't know. We don't really know his full fate. It looked on the surface, it looks like he's being turned, but maybe something more nefarious is going on. Like, is he a soul for Leviathan? Is he powering Leviathan? Is he, who knows?
We don't know.
We don't know.
Until the sequel. Yeah.
Oh God.
Hold on. Oh. Shout out to NMJ Films. What's going on, brother? It's good to see you, man. I'll be chatting with you soon. Good to see you in the chat.
So Riley gets her audience with the Cenobites, and they're like, so what do you want? And she's like, you know what? I've seen your gifts, and I don't want anything from you because I know it's going to bite me in the ass. And they show her an image of her brother, and they're like, and she's like, I don't want anything from you. And she's like, okay, so you've chosen Lament. You've chosen the Lament configuration. And the box is in the Lament configuration, the traditional Lament configuration. Yeah. And you've chosen a life of regret. All the decisions that you made, everything that has happened, you've chosen to live with that and carry that weight. So she chooses not to resurrect her brother, which I thought, it's kind of a downer ending. I'm like, okay, I can live with that. I can live with that ending. And again,
because it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, it wrapped around. So again, this is one of the things.
There's no bargaining with the Cenobites and the priest.
So it was like, I thought that was a nice touch. It's like, again, this falls into the category of something that I kind of liked, because Hellraiser, it's never really a happy or sad ending. It's like, if you go back to the original, it's like the first movie. It's like, yeah, Kirsty got out of the house alive, but the box is still out there. Her dad is still dead, like killed horribly by his brother, betrayed by his wife, who hated him all along anyway. So she's gone through this horrible traumatic thing, but the box is still out there somewhere, and she barely survived by herself. Her dad's gone. And then by the second movie, her dad is still, she was tricked into thinking her dad was in hell, and she went to go rescue him. That didn't work out.
Yeah.
So she again escapes with her life and with Tiffany, but a lot of shit went down. A lot of people died in that hospital, and it never really truly happened. And then the pillar comes out of the blood-soaked mattress, and Pinhead's evil is still alive. Everybody, all the shit that went down, the evil is still there in the pillar and all that. So, it's never really a fully happy ending. So I like the kind of downer ending of this. It's like, even she didn't know if she made the right decision in the end. So I liked that. But yeah, some of the rules and some of the things that went down in the movie. And again, I don't know about the Cenobites just being there as lackeys just for the sake of being lackeys. And that's what I feel like the Cenobites have gotten turned into over the years, where before they were just these creatures that were, explorers in the further realms of heightened, like, ridiculous sensations and experiences. And they do that to other people. And that's just what the demons to some, angels to others, blah, blah, blah.
There you go. Yeah.
It's like, and now they're just straight up villains that kill people.
Right.
That's just, it seems like, and that's
they become monsters of the week.
Yeah. And even though Hellraiser 3 was guilty of that, it was almost accepted because they wrote it into the story that Elliot Spencer and Pinhead were separated from each other in Hellraiser 2.
Right.
And so when Elliot's soul was freed from Pinhead, his evil went off and ran amok. So it was kind of like, I'll accept it that Pinhead's a slasher that laughs maniacally and doesn't give a shit anymore and goes to Earth and just kills a shit ton of people in a nightclub. Fine, I'll take it. It's funny.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just it was just kind of I was fine with some of the things in the movie. As far as the look of the film, there was a lot of interesting things that the director does.
There were some great visuals. Hold on a second. Okay. So this is what we thanks Night One. Says the one with the split arms. Some people are calling it the Weeper.
Okay.
So this is what we're talking about. How some things we thought was cool, and some other things we were like, I don't know about that. The Cenobite should not be, up for grabs of destruction from the priest. Because the one with the split arms was the one that stabbed. Riley stabbed with the box, and now the priest and the other Cenobites have to go after that one, and then they pull apart.
Was it that one? I thought it was Chatter.
Well, no, it was the one with the forearm looking thing.
Okay.
And they pull it apart, which that was another thing with this movie, is that the blood was off and on too. Some of the blood was legit and badass, and some of the blood was CG. Like when they pulled apart the Weeper, it looked like shit, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It didn't look good. But then you have this scene, which looked fucking great in terms of practical effects.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, back to you were talking about the visuals.
So the visuals, what the director, some of the things that the director did that I really enjoyed was having something in the foreground, focusing on it, and then having something going on in the background, like at the very beginning when Voight is summoning Leviathan at the very, very beginning. Yeah. And he's doing his thing, and then you see his victim in the background getting hoisted up with the chains.
Yeah, that was
He's
cool.
obviously getting tortured.
Yeah.
You see something going on in the foreground, and in the background you see a Cenobite walk by. And
when the Cenobites are coming,
focus,
the background moves around and shit.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Something that they focused on a lot more was when the Cenobites come, the atmosphere, the walls around them change. Now they did that a little bit in the originals, but they did it a lot more when the Cenobites were coming for people in this, like the scene where the roommate is getting it in the van. And they're in the van and they're trying to run away from Voight's house. Yeah. And
Jesse, it could have been worse. It could have been just her regular voice.
And what the oddest here's
it could have been just her regular voice with nothing enhanced to it.
Let me tell you something.
It could have been a lot worse.
Let me tell you something about the most bizarre thing.
Can you imagine if it was just her regular voice? That would have been terrible.
The most bizarre thing about the Cenobite, the Hell Priest,
Mhm.
was they cast a female
Uh-huh.
for the Cenobite,
Right.
and which, who cares? It's fine. Do what you want because this is your own gig.
Right.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now the Cenobite in the story, some of them were, the gender wasn't really clear, and some of them were very clear.
Okay.
Again, there were only 4, and then
Mhm.
by the end, the engineer shows up, and he's kind of like the keeper of the box, or
Right.
it, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So in the story, Pinhead,
Mhm.
to my recollection,
Okay.
I'm trying to
Right.
here, let me. Its voice, unlike that of its companion, was light and breathy, the voice of an excited girl. Every inch of its head had been tattooed with an intricate grid, and at every intersection of horizontal and vertical axes, a jeweled pin driven through to the bone.
There you go.
Pinhead had a female voice. So this is what baffles me. You
Yeah.
went out of your way.
Uh-huh.
You went out of your way
What's up, Fonzie?
to cast who you cast as Pinhead.
Okay.
And you didn't utilize the voice.
So you're saying that you're agreeing with Jesse here,
What?
that they should not have had the enhanced part of the voice. They should just had her just talk normal.
Well, here's the thing. Doug Bradley's voice was enhanced.
That's what I'm saying. I don't have an issue with that.
No, I'm saying
Yeah.
Doug Bradley's voice was enhanced down.
Right. And I'm perfectly fine with that.
So if you
Yeah.
were going to enhance this
actress.
this actress's voice,
right, which they did.
you should have pitched it up.
Oh. That would not have worked.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
That would have made her less intimidating. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. It would have made her less intimidating.
I'm just saying.
We have such sights to show you. You know how bad that would have killed everything.
No, but it's like, if you think about it.
Yeah.
What they chose to do with the Hell Priest's throat.
Yeah.
The voice could have been affected. So if you pitched it up and made it kind of breathlessly feminine, it wouldn't have sounded super high pitched and feminine like Minnie Mouse. It wouldn't have sounded stupid.
Okay, that's what I thought you were like.
No, it would have been pitched up, but like, it could have made it sound like there was wisps and winds going through it and kind of unearthly and unsettling. It could have worked, but what I'm saying is, you go and cast a female,
right?
And then you do it to the voice where it's like, it could be either or.
Right.
It makes no sense to me.
Right.
But
did you want to see more?
I didn't hate the voice is all I'm saying. It's like, if you hate the voice, I'm not going to die on that hill. You hate the voice all you want.
Yeah,
that's fine.
That's perfectly fine.
No worries.
To each their own.
That's your own personal,
But did you feel that the priest, I feel that for what the actress was given to do and for what dialogue she was given, I think she did the best that she was given. Basically, she did the best she could for what she was given. I feel like she didn't feel, to me, she felt like she was just one of the Cenobites. She didn't feel like, I don't know. Like I wanted when this version, when the Hell Priest shows up, it's like, holy fucking shit, man.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I feel like every time she showed up, it was kind of cool visually to see her, but I felt like she was just there with the others, and she was, I don't know, didn't really feel like a leader to me.
Yeah.
But I thought the actress did a good job for what she was given. Did you want to see more of her? Do you think they could have gave her more to do, or maybe show a little bit more personality than just smile once in a while? Or you think it was perfectly fine? Did you want to see more of her?
Here's the problem. Here's the kind of like the ultimate problem with Hellraiser in general.
When you show her too much, it doesn't work.
This is what happened.
Okay.
When you read this, and even when you watch the first movie.
Okay.
Okay. the Cenobites are not the focus.
Right.
In this and the first movie, and even in the second movie, they're not really the focus. It's about the humans.
Right.
And what happened was, and even Pinhead was credited only as lead Cenobite.
Okay.
In the first movie.
Right.
Okay. And what happened was his look became so iconic and so startling and so memorable.
Fucking 80s.
Yeah. And especially in his voice and the way he carried himself and the way he spoke his lines, his very, very, very few lines of dialogue, that everyone gravitated towards him. Even in the second movie originally, they didn't expect the Cenobites to kind of, especially Pinhead, to steal the show the way they did. If you watch the story of Hellraiser 2, Julia, of all people, was the one that they brought back to be the Queen of Hell.
Right.
They thought people were going to be more invested in the humans and Julia and her, and that's why they were kind of poised to make Julia the baddie. And that's kind of, I mean, you look at, they killed the Cenobites in Hellraiser 2. Channard, as soon as he was created, the Cenobites regained their humanity, and they were sniped. Like they were.
It was kind of fucking cool.
Yeah. I mean, they were
because we had altercation.
But they were sniped. Like they didn't even get in a lick. Like they didn't even get in one.
Which I can accept a super powered Cenobite versus other Cenobites, and he's stronger. Yeah. But not Riley doing the Pierce box thing on one of the Cenobites, and they kill it. They kill their own, which is already dead. So it just doesn't make sense.
So now people, because after 10 movies, not counting this one, everyone has come to kind of expect Pinhead to make this grand appearance and to just be like the focus. And
so you didn't mind it. You didn't mind her being more like the novel and just being one of the Cenobites and just kind of being on the Cenobite team. I
still feel like she
which once in a while throws the football Hail Mary chains.
I feel like she had
on the victims
a little bit more to do. I again, the Angelique kind of Asian looking Cenobite, again, I did not like her design at all. I felt like she was kind of like the second runner up in terms of like she had the most.
I feel like we've seen her more than the priest.
Sometimes I feel like we did see her a little bit more. I didn't like her design at all. I didn't really like her presence at all. Again, she came off as more of a villain. Right. And it's like, I don't like the Cenobites being portrayed as like,
save your breath for screaming.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. It's tricky. It's a tricky balance.
But it's not horrible.
It's
not terrible.
And
I would have liked to see the priest a little bit more.
It would have been, of course, it would have been nice. But I mean, again, you can't replicate Doug Bradley. Right. You can't fucking do it. Right. You can't replicate his voice. You can't replicate his face in that makeup.
See, this is my guy right here. He's on point. Yes. Yes. And we're gonna get into that with the next movie we're gonna talk about.
So the kills.
Yeah.
They had some moments where
my favorite moment in the movie is this. I mean, I can't show it, but my favorite moment in the movie is when the friend hears the bells. She's fucked. Cenobites are coming for her. Visually, things are happening when they're in the van. This was a great scene. They're in the van. They're driving away. Nobody else sees what she sees. And the van, she's in the back of the van, and the van is getting farther and farther away from her perspective, even though she's inside it. Yeah. And the Cenobites have her, and they end up ripping off all of the skin of her back. And it's a practical effect, and you actually see some blood, and that was pretty good. The Hell Priest was having a little bit of fun, sticking some pins in her for her enjoyment, and the Chatterer was like drinking the blood. He didn't really do anything else, though. But this is my favorite scene out of the whole film. Visually, this was really good, and shit started to really hit the fan in the movie. But yeah,
like
I wish we had more scenes like this.
They had hints, like when the boyfriend, when Riley's boyfriend gets sacrificed, and they, the one does the wires and the wire thing comes like starts flaying him.
Right.
You have one scene where he starts to get skinned on his arm,
Mhm.
and it was a nice effect.
Yeah.
Really
yeah.
nice effect,
Mhm.
but that's it. And then he gets pulled down into hell.
Yeah.
As a sacrifice,
Yeah.
the final sacrifice, and it's like,
Yeah, and
That's it.
the older lady that gets pulled into hell, save your breath for screaming.
yeah,
You don't see her death or what happens to her.
they just start torturing. They torture her with the throat thing. The
Well,
pin
she puts a little pin in her
yeah,
mouth.
but that's it.
That's
in the
it.
throat,
You don't
and that's
see.
it. And it's like that's not. I don't.
Yeah.
That's not. I don't find that unnerving. I don't find that anything. It's like it's just. It's irritating.
Yeah, this
to
was
me.
the best part of the movie for me. For me.
Yeah, and visually it was nice to look at also. So yeah, the kills weren't great, but
It was okay.
compared to the next film
Yeah,
we're going to
no
talk
comparison.
about, they were fine. They're absolutely adequate.
And we appreciate it at least being, still being R. They could have PG-13 this shit. They could have did it. And y'all know what happens when they PG-13 stuff.
God. Why? Just why?
I love it. I love it. All right. Was there anything else you want to talk about before we rate it?
It was fine.
Yeah.
It was I've seen
What's up, Donnie?
I've seen much worse.
Well, in terms of classic horror movie reboots,
Yeah.
we've seen way worse.
Yeah, I've seen worse.
Like garbage, eating garbage.
And they did enough. Oh, I didn't talk about the music. Okay, so at first I was really irritated because they were making the music, they were making the score sound a lot like the Christopher Young score from the first and second Hellraiser film. And then they flat out went all the way. They used the theme from 1 and 2, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? This has nothing to do with those movies. There's no connection to these films whatsoever. Like you've gone and done your own thing.
Yeah.
This is the Balrog from Rings of Power all over again. I'm like, what are you doing? This is no, stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then by the end of it, I was kind of like,
you accepted it because
like,
it's such an iconic theme. They're like, all right.
It really is, because it's like, it's kind of like the music. It is the theme.
Yeah.
It's almost like you can't really change it at this point.
Right.
Other movies, like, they haven't used it, and
they could have made their own theme. They could
but
have,
it's like
but it's fine. They're reusing the old.
Doing such a bootleg,
I don't hate it.
They were doing such a bootleg WCW version of it, and it was like they might as well just go with it. And then they did. It's like, okay, fine. Yeah. I did like that they were using kind of like the Leviathan theme by the end. It was nice to hear. Yeah. So it was fine. I was okay with it. I really wasn't okay with it at first, but then by the end, and then the second time I watched it, I was like, okay, I don't know why I'm okay with this, but I'm okay with it. So yeah, it was like,
for future movies though, when the Cenobites show up, it should be like you're fucked, right? So when the Cenobites show up, if you can't bullshit your way out of it and try to cut some kind of deal, you're fucked. So hopefully when we move forward, they will, for a sequel, they will not treat the Cenobites like ghosts, where you could just pour some salt. You just pour some salt around you and stay inside the salt ring, and the ghost can't get to you. Nothing should stop the Cenobites. Nothing. Which was like, I don't love that you could stop the Cenobites. Like something man-made can stop them. I don't like that. But it is what it is.
Again, they wrote their own set of rules in this.
Yeah,
and
it is what it is.
Some of them were just dumb rules. So, no.
Yep, the WCW bootleg versions, man. Love that. Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and rate this sumbitch. C is average. You guys know this. Some really good visuals once in a while. Some great practical effects and makeup once in a while. The music was okay once in a while. The characters were kind of average. We did like Voight though. The Hell Priest, I thought she was fine. I wanted them to do more with her though. Maybe in the next movie we'll do more with her. But you know, if you're comparing this to The Fog, the Fog
Yeah.
remake, if you're comparing, you know, if you compare this to all the terrible, bad remakes, bad bullshit reboots, a lot of the atrocious Hellraiser sequels, this starts to look far better, especially when you compare it to another movie that we're going to talk about a little later. We're saving that for last. You compare it to that. This new Hellraiser reboot is actually pretty solid. It's a solid reboot. Nothing will beat the first two. The first two will always reign supreme over this. And in terms of rewatchability, I think 3 is fun. 3 is not great, but I would rather watch 3 over and over and over again more than this. But this is not trash. This is a solid horror reboot to us. It's solid. All right. So C is average. What are you giving Hellraiser?
Oh, C is average.
Okay.
So I'm going C plus.
All right. She's going C plus. All right. I'm gonna go B minus. I'm gonna go B minus.
Okay.
Like I told the Movie Dojo Army, our channel members that support us, I gave it 1 thumb up. I didn't do the 2 thumbs, but the 1 thumb
up the ass.
What do you?
I don't know.
It's getting late.
It just
it's getting late.
It just sounded like the right thing to do. I don't know.
All right, so yeah, B minus for me. It's a very solid reboot, horror reboot. They could have did a lot worse.